Okay, Acts 23 picks up where 22 left off. There, Paul is gazing intently at the high council. That's the Jewish leaders in that day. And Paul began like this: Brothers, I have always lived before God with a clear conscience. And again, I'll let you read this for yourself. This isn't really difficult to understand. But it's really interesting if you read it in the context of what was going on. Remember, there was this debate, Jew and Gentile debate. Paul had understood that Jesus and the message of Jesus was for everyone, Jews and Gentiles, not just Jews. But we can see the high council and the Jewish elite, they're just thinking about not just their own nationalistic pride, but even just the pride in their own positions as rulers in that particular church. And so look at what it says in verse 6. Paul realized that some members of the high council were Sadducees and some were Pharisees. So those were different factions in the high council, and he understood that Pharisees, and we'll read this here in a second, that Pharisees and Sadducees had this doctrinal difference, and so he's going to not only exploit that to get them arguing amongst themselves, this is really clever, but also he's going to exploit it as a bridge to the gospel. So he says this: Brothers, I am a Pharisee, as were my ancestors, and I am on trial because my hope is in the resurrection of the dead. Now, what he's talking about there was the fact that Jesus was raised from the dead, which is central to the Christian faith. But he also knew, not only was he sharing the gospel with that statement, but he also knew that he was going to get them divided. It says in verse 7, this divided the council, the Pharisees against the Sadducees. And here's why, verse 8. For the Sadducees say there is no resurrection or angels or spirits, but the Pharisees believe in all of these things. And so there was a great uproar. Some of the teachers of religious law who were Pharisees jumped up and began to argue forcefully, hey, we see nothing wrong with this guy, now that they realized he was on their side, even though they didn't really fully understand what he was saying and the whole idea that Jesus was raised from the dead. They still were just saying, hey, this guy is he believes what we believe. He's a Pharisee, or he used to be a Pharisee. He said perhaps a spirit or an angel spoke to him. And so again, Paul probably had a good time watching the Pharisees and Sadducees sort of go at each other. I'll let you read this for yourself. But verse 11 says this: That night the Lord appeared to Paul and he said, Be encouraged, Paul. Just as you have been a witness to me here in Jerusalem, you must preach the good news in Rome as well. Now that's a little bit of foreshadowing for the next few chapters, because sure enough, he's going to end up going to Rome, but not on a vacation. He's going to end up going to Rome in chains. But he's going there to share the gospel, right? So anyway, we can see this plan to kill Paul. I'll let you read that for yourself. They sort of plotted against him to kill him. Paul gets sent to Caesarea. This is just all part of, again, the Roman government. They had to go through the proper channels. The Jewish high council couldn't just, indict him themselves. They had to make sure it went through the proper channels with the Roman governors. And so it says that night as ordered, the soldiers took Paul as far as Antipatris, and then they returned to the fortress the next morning, while the mounted troops took him on to Caesarea. So there he goes on to Caesarea. Once he gets there, the governor there, Felix, he said, I will hear your case myself when your accusers arrive. And then the governor ordered him kept in prison at Herod's headquarters. So once again, all of this stuff is just, these last few chapters we're marching toward Rome, and we're seeing that Paul is in chains, but everywhere he goes, he is sharing the gospel. So you're ready to read chapter 23. We'll see you tomorrow for chapter 24.